Hello everybody and welcome to another video. The aim today is to use some long exposures of the river behind here, what you can see in a few moments. I usually don't take any long exposure photos these days, but today I thought I will try this out again. Been a few years I really did that. Also, I don't really use a tripod normally in my photography. Since I'm doing long exposures today, I thought I really will try to use and take the time to set up the tripod. I usually don't use a tripod as a set, but if I do, I use this Zeroid tripod. It also has a triangular middle column, like a Peak Design tripod, so it is relatively compact for this quite tall, or at least for me, tall tripod. Never use one of these. It's polarizing filter. I think it could make a better image here with all this wet stuff. If you do photography regularly, you know what a polarizing filter is. If you don't know, a polarizing filter gets away with reflections, or most of it, so you can intensify the colors of an image. This is an image that is not polarized, and this is an image that is. So you can see the difference in the saturation of the image without doing anything to the raw file, so you don't increase the saturation in Lightroom or something like that. We do it physically with this filter. Yeah, that's kind of wet. One small step for a man, giant leap for mankind, or something like that. I must say this valley is pretty beautiful. And now it is around 10 o'clock. It's usually pretty dark down here in this valley, it seems, but through the trees there is light coming through and it looks really, really beautiful. If you use long exposures, set the camera to a timed mode, so it only goes off after a few seconds. If you press any buttons here, you introduce some shake to the camera, and if it goes off just after a few seconds, it has the time to get stabilized. On this image, I'm framing up the tree flying here, and I think the light really helps this image. I'm shooting it in portrait mode, so we can really see the water. If I go horizontal landscape mode, it doesn't really show the water anyway, and the tree, so I'm deciding to do that. So let's have a look how it looks. I found out that if I use a tripod, it takes longer to set up, so you're not that agile going from place to place, but it does help to slow down, so it can be an advantage. You might find more compositions in one place with taking the time setting up the tripod. You have time to look around maybe, so you can see more compositions than just running around like a headless chicken. As I said, I usually don't take long exposure photos or use a tripod. Why is that? I think tripods are kind of cumbersome sometimes. You have to lock them around. You use more weight on your backpack that is filled with lenses anyway. And these days, with the good cameras we have today, with sensor stabilization, I don't need the tripod. Also, I am not the most handy person anyway, kind of clumsy sometimes, and sometimes the tripod is just a faff. Also, I am not the most handy person anyway, kind of clumsy sometimes, and sometimes the tripod is just a faff. Sometimes though, I'm happy that I have a tripod because of this scene. I'm trying to shoot this leaf down here with the water behind. If I use the camera, it can really get quite unstable, and also get everything in focus. It does help use a tripod. Something I've never done was getting this low with the camera. This tripod you can invert and switch it around. So the ball head is down here and you get pretty low to take some images. It could work for macro photos, but also if you want to really go show what's in the foreground, it also works like that. So conclusion, at least for me. If I really want to go into the long exposure stuff, yes, I will use a tripod. But 99% of what I do, I don't need a tripod. If you do some video stuff where you need a stable platform, of course, you can use a tripod. But if you really don't want to go into this stuff, you don't need one. And today, with all these great cameras we have, with image stabilization, lens stabilization, you can get away with a decent sharp photo with a longer exposure on the camera, like maybe a second or two. If you are really stable, which I'm not, you can go away probably with 2.5 seconds if you want to try a long exposure, but you don't need to invest into a decent tripod to start with.